How's it going, folks? I am Graham GSM Matthews, and welcome to the end of the summer edition of Hashtag Ask GSM here today for August 31st, 2015, edition number 94 of Hashtag Ask GSM. So I'm recording this on Sunday. I'm traveling back to school on Monday, and I was kind of worried, not really worried, but I was kind of anticipating a few questions to be answered on today's show, considering I was going to ask all the questions or, put out, send in your questions right now on Saturday. And a lot of you guys sent in questions both through YouTube and Twitter. No Facebook questions this week, so if you couldn't send it in on time, I apologize. But if I like your comment on Facebook or like your comment on YouTube, I usually, even if I don't like it, usually I do see it. And I will include it in the next video. Same thing with Twitter. If I favorite your tweet, that means I saw it, and I will include it in the next week's episode. So with all that being said, though, we started the summer on June 1st. We're ending it on August 31st, and it's been an awesome summer, personally, wrestling-related, everything. And I'm wearing, I love this shirt so much, the SummerSlam shirt. I'm wearing it 2 weeks in a row, and of course, last week's edition, only less than 24 hours removed from when I attended SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver. I had no voice, so thanks to you guys for pulling through. Got a lot of great feedback on that video. It was only 20 minutes long, but I was able to pull through, and without any voice whatsoever, and kind of give my in-depth analysis and on-site report from a SummerSlam weekend. Had a lot of fun, put up some SummerSlam content over the weekend, videos that I took at the event, talking about the experience. SummerSlam week is over. Now we move into the fall season, so hopefully wrestling is the momentum from wrestling, whether it be WWE, Ring of Honor, Global Force, Lucha, whatever, Lucha Underground, it all carries into the fall season. We have a great fall season ahead. So that being said, though, before we get started here, I apologize to delay it any further, delay the inevitable. But I will continue to do these videos, of course, going into the fall season. I will have a time in between classes on Mondays to film the videos. They should be up at the regular time around the afternoon, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock. So be on the lookout for those, on the Mondays going forward, as opposed to just kind of being random or going up at 11. Very rarely will that happen going forward. Going forward, they should be up around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And of course, as always, if you want to send in a question, you can tweet me on Twitter with the hashtag AskGSM at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the wall itself or leave a comment on the post. I usually keyword, they're not including this past Sunday night because I'm filming this on Sunday night. But anyway, you can leave a comment on that post I usually put up on Sunday nights when I gather the questions. Or you can leave a question on this very video. I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition. So, without further ado, let's kick off today's episode. So, the first KFC from YouTube, their question was, will the Dudley Boys be used correctly? So, obviously, I talked about this. I'm still pretty hyped over it. It's been 1 week. The Dudley Boys are back in the WWE, probably one of, if not my biggest, it wasn't my biggest market moment. It's not like I lost my voice over it. I had to keep it cool. I was watching from my house. I did not attend Raw last week, of course. I'm not regretting it, because you saw the state that I was in last week when I filmed the video. No voice, extremely exhausted. There was absolutely zero way I was going to Raw last week. But didn't take away from the fact that it was an amazing moment when the Dudley Boys returned. So will they be used correctly? I'd imagine so. Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, whatever the hell you want to call him, takes no shit from anybody. That guy, it's not like he's going to be, I'm not going to lose, I'm not going to do the job, but he knows what's best for business. They're not going to be booked in any shitty angles, I would hope. They're veterans. Hopefully they get some leeway over what they do. Then again, I thought the same thing about Rob Van Dam. They booked him to be a loser. But Bubba Ray, Bully Ray, whatever, he is very outspoken in the way that things are run and done. Hence, that's part of the reason why he left TNA to begin with, because he wasn't very happy with the way that things were run. That's more from a financial standpoint, but even the direction of the company, he wasn't very happy with. So with WWE, I would hope that if they were to they can't be like the Rob Van Dam of the tag team division where they're just there to put over other talent, which is good. They should be there to put over other talent, but they should be there to also have great matches, hold the titles eventually. I'm sure if that doesn't happen in Night of Champions, it will happen at some point in the next couple of months. I can almost guarantee it. Some people are saying they're only going to be around for the next few months. I've read some reports they might be around for the next couple of years, which would be amazing. Love me some Dudley Boys. So anyway, will they be used correctly? I'd imagine so. Bully Ray's not going to take any shit from the creative writers and not just be there just to do the jobs and stuff. They're extremely over, so I'm sure they're not going to be wasted. I'd be shocked if they were wasted and just jobbing to the Matadors every week, So I would imagine they will be used correctly going forward. And if this means we can get some sort of triple threat TLC tag team, triple threat ladder tag team match at TLC pay-per-view in a couple months, count me in. That show is going to be in Boston, too, so if I end up getting tickets to the show in the TD Garden, I think it is, for the TLC pay-per-view in December, then count me in, consider my tickets bought right then and there if that's announced for the show. His second question, will Seth Rollins be doing double duty at Night of Champions with fighting John Cena for the United States Championship and fighting Sting for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? That was my plan all along. Not plan, but that was kind of my thought process dating back to last week. Now, take notice as to how John Cena during last week's Raw, tonight's Raw might be a completely different story, but take notice how he was upset. He showed a lot of frustration over the way things ended at the end of SummerSlam, or not the end of SummerSlam, but just the way at the end of his match with Jon Stewart screwing him over out of the United States Championship. He showed more determination with regaining the U.S. title than he did winning his 16th World Championship. And you also throw in the fact that Sting is back. He will be on Raw tonight. So, yeah, I assume that Seth Rollins will be doing double duty at Night of Champions, the WWE title against against Sting in the main event, and then the U.S. Championship against John Cena. It would really suck. I think it would be bad if they had him lose both championship matches. The guys at the top of the world right now, it would be pretty cool if they had him run with it, Jay Lethal style for a couple of months. This is a complete ROH originated idea. I'm not saying ROH invented the idea, but WWE has never before done two titles at the same time, or at least this way. People have held dual championships, but never the world championship in a mid-card title. That has never been done before. That's been done. They've merged the two titles or vacated one. Rollins is the first one to hold both belts at the same time and defend both belts at the same time. Night of Champions, all titles have to be defended. It's been a theme going back to the very initial installment back in 2007. So I would imagine he will be doing double duty. And if there's any guy in the roster, if there's any one guy I would have, pull double duty, it's Seth Rollins. The guy's an amazing worker. That match with John Cena, just being there live for that match was incredible. And I'm sure he's going to put on two very good matches, two good to great matches with Sting and John Cena, respectively, at Night of Champions in a couple weeks. His third match, who should join Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose to take on the Wyatt family? So my idea was Randy Orton. Now, some people have said Cesaro, which is pretty cool. For right now, someone else asked a question about this, and I'll get to that in a couple minutes. I would keep Cesaro with Kevin Owens. Owens won clean. Cesaro has yet to get his big win over Kevin Owens. I would keep that feud going. Some people have even said do it over the IC title. I would keep that belt on Ryback for right now, but if they want to do a triple threat at Night of Champions and Owens wins the belt there, or Cesaro, neither of them have held that championship before, so I'd be all for it. And then you could do a... we haven't seen a best of seven series in a very, very long time in WWE, whether it be for the tag team division, singles competition. We haven't seen one. During the podcast I did with Jamie Lee Mack about a month or two ago, he said, and I believe he was correct, that the last best of 5, best of 7 series we had in WWE was over the U.S. Championship back in 2005, I think with Benoit and Booker T, if I remember correctly. It might have been 2004, I'm pretty sure it was 2005 though. And that was 10 years ago. We have not seen one since. We see it all the time in TNA, maybe sometimes in Ring of Honor. I know we saw a couple in Lucha Underground. So I would love to see it return to WWE over the IC or US Championship with Owens and Cesaro. But going back to your original question, so if Cesaro is going to be busy with Owens for the foreseeable future, I would put Randy Orton in there. I think I either tweeted that out or put it in the review or something. I wrote that somewhere. I know that for a fact. And I say Randy Orton because I feel like Orton and Wyatt would make great rivals. I've been saying this for a long time. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton would make for a really cool feud. Now, I would have said that also about Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt about their feud last year if you told me that those... when that feud was first happening, I thought it was going to be amazing. It was a good feud. It was not a bad feud. Wyatt destroyed Dean Ambrose. The matches were good. They weren't great. It was kind of an underwhelming feud. Didn't exactly meet those lofty expectations a lot of people set for it. So I don't know if Orton and a Wyatt feud would be the same thing. The difference in that feud, though, I feel like Wyatt can win and it would not hurt Randy Orton because Orton can take a loss and it won't hurt him. He's freaking Randy Orton. The guy's going to be over regardless. Orton is the babyface. Wyatt is the heel. I see no reason why not to do that feud. That is one feud right now with Randy Orton that I feel like I would love to see. Him and Brock Lesnar also. That is one fresh feud I'm dying to see right now, Orton and Wyatt. So if you put Orton in that little three-way with the former Shield members against the Wyatt family, you're going to get some amazing matches out of it for one thing. And from there, you can transition to a Bray Wyatt-Orton feud for the fall. So that's my take on it. And his fourth question here, what's going on with Bad News Barrett rather, in Stardust? Will either of them be turning babyface or will both continue to be heels? So from what I've heard, Barrett is going off to go film a movie over in England. He will be off TV for the foreseeable future. So at least they actually took the time to write him off TV and he didn't just disappear. It was kind of a crappy way of writing him off. Stardust delivered a crossroads to him. It's not like he got, killed or something like that. He just took a crossroads. But yeah, he turned on him, so they're not going to be feuding, starting going to Night of Champions. Barrett's off TV. Stardust, I assume, will not be going babyface. He will be heel for the foreseeable future. Maybe resuming the feud with Neville. I've heard some reports of him doing a rematch with Stephen Amell one-on-one. That'd be nice. I mean, Stephen Amell did he did well enough in that tag team match that I would kind of be open to the idea of him doing a singles match. I just feel like more in the tag team match he would have been more limited as he was, and I thought it was a perfect scenario. One-on-one, I don't know if it would work as well, but I'm still open to the idea. But anyway, though, I feel like, I will write an article about this, hopefully, for some website in the next couple of days, weeks, or whatever, that when Barrett comes back, he should be a babyface. I know the mid-card division right now needs some heels, or needs babyfaces, too. Let's face it, the mid-card division needs more fresh faces, period, But I feel like a babyface Barrett, whether you give him the bad news gimmick or not, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I would hope that he'd go back to being Wade Barrett. The King shit isn't working. I thought it would. That's, I take blame on that. I mean, it's not like I came up with the idea, but, I really hoped he would win the King of the Ring tournament because it fit his character perfectly, but I didn't think they'd be booking him like crap. I mean, I should have, second-guessed that and thought again, thinking of the company that he's a part of and their track record with his pushes in the last couple of years. I digress, but I think this is the perfect opportunity. I mean, more than likely, more likely than not, they'll probably just have him come back and pretend nothing even happened. But I think this is the perfect opportunity to have him come back as a babyface and do a feud between him and Stardust. If they're not going to turn Stardust into Cody Rhodes at any point in the near future, I think a lot of people were hoping after he turned on Stardust that he was going to become, or turn on Barrett rather, last week on Raw, that he was going to become Cody Rhodes again, based off the Cody chants that I heard. And I know they do that all the time, but they seem more louder on Monday than usual. And after he turned on Barrett, it seemed to kind of pick up a little bit. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So we will have to live with Stardust for a little bit longer. I think it's a good character. He's come a long way, so I don't have a huge problem with it. But like I said, I think a Barrett Stardust feud would be great with Barrett as the babyface, and I would love to see that upon his return. Brief side note here, just to kind of throw this out here. If you hear some noise on in the background, it's just my fan. It's super hot out right now, so I do have the fan on in the background very, very low. So if in between the dead space you hear something, that is what it is. I have my fan on in the background, so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. It's not audio issues, but like I said before, also wanted to mention this. If you do watch these videos with headphones, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just my microphone. I don't know what it is. I get static. I get some feedback in my ear when I listen to it through the headphones and my microphone. I don't know if that does that with the video as a whole. If you listen to it with the headphones, I would just listen to it through your computer, through your laptop, whatever. I don't know if that issue transcends to everybody. I'm not exactly sure, but again, just a brief disclaimer for anyone else experiencing that issue. I don't know how to fix it. I apologize, but hopefully the audio quality is consistent throughout, though. Moving on to Frank Shear, 15. His question was, would this TNA versus GFW invasion be better if TNA originals like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe were still there? Absolutely, but I don't even think it's even on the TNA side. Even the Global Force Wrestling roster, I've talked about this before on a Wrestle Rant radio. I've talked about it in articles and my TNA reviews. I mean, we're only a few weeks into it, so I can't really judge. When it first started, I was kind of meh, and I wasn't really sold on it. Last week's show was terrible. Last week's episode was not good at all. The thing is, and I mean, when you sent in that question, I'm reading it back, like before I started filming, I'm thinking, you know what? This reminds me a lot of the original Alliance, the original Invasion angle from 2001. Because what was the main issue with that angle? Now, I know I talked about this with John on the train ride to Brooklyn last week on SummerSlam weekend, how, we both watched SummerSlam 01. I reviewed it here for the channel. I thought that was a great show. You had a lot of great wrestling during that Alliance era. The biggest issue with the Alliance, I mean, I was not a fan during then, but I can kind of speak on it from what I've seen and from what I read, whatever, is that obviously they just did not have the star power to back it up. The biggest star they had on the WCW side of things was Booker T, and they had to turn Stone Cold Steve Austin heel, they had to turn Kurt Angle heel just to make up for the lack of star power on the WCW, ECW Alliance side. The same thing goes for GFW. They have a very talented roster. You have Chris Masters. Lady Tapa, I think, is not very good, but it is what it is. You have Lady Tapa, Chris Masters, Justin Gabriel, Brian Myers, the former Kurt Hawkins, a few other guys from former, of WWE, TNA fame, Sanjay Dutt, and just there's not one huge star. They have, Justin Gabriel in the main event of TNA last week. No, not to shit on Justin Gabriel. Certainly not to shit on EC3. That guy is so great. But you had a Derek Bateman-Justin Gabriel match in the main event of TNA last week. I mean, that fits TNA so perfectly. I'm a TNA fan, not to bash them, but I'm just saying that for their TNA World Heavyweight Championship, you had Justin Gabriel, now known as PJ Black, taking on the former Derek Bateman, who has come a long way. PJ Black has not been established enough in the eyes of the fans to justify him being in the main event slot. I think it's cool. We have some fresh faces, so there is a positive to the invasion angle, but you don't have any star power on either side. I've been complaining about this for months. On the GFW side of things, you don't have that one huge star that stands out. For the TNA side, you could say the same thing for them. What is one huge star from TNA that sticks out? Kurt Angle's out for the foreseeable future. Jeff Hardy, out for the foreseeable future, broke his leg. Who else do you have on the TNA side of things? I'm a huge Matt Hardy fan. Is he really the biggest star they have on their roster other than EC3? You know, he's kind of he was in WWE for many years, but I would consider him not a TNA homegrown talent, but they really made him from nothing and made him into a huge star. One of the very few things that TNA has done right in the last couple of years was make a start of EC3, so kudos to them for that. But other than that, though, what other stars do they have? Matt Hardy, EC3, Drew Galloway. I mean, that's cool. He's a great talent, too, but that's pretty much it. Styles is gone, like you said. Samoa Joe, Magnus, Austin Aries, Bobby Roode is on his way out, I believe. James Storm. All these guys are gone or on the verge of leaving. You know, so it just, I think it's, you know, it sucks. They're so deprived of star power right now in TNA. They're bringing in all these GFW guys, and I don't think it's going to solve the problem. So far, the invasion angles have rarely, if ever, worked in pro wrestling, or at least in WWE, especially in TNA with the goddamn heel factions. I mean, shout out to RJ. He knows my hatred for fucking Immortal, Main Event Mafia, Aces and Eights, Beatdown Clan, this and that, and this and that, and just Dixie Carter, all these crappy-ass heel stables in TNA. It just never ending with this company, you know? And this whole GFW thing, oh, Jeff Jarrett was behind the attacks. Whoop-de-frickin' do. We all saw it coming. I don't want to go on a huge rant here about GFW and TNA, but you are absolutely right. It would definitely mean more if you had people, maybe if you had maybe they will end up bringing in Magnus for the invasion angle. Maybe that's where this is leading, and James Storm too. I have no idea. But even then, I love Magnus. I feel like that would still not make me care about this because it's such a tired concept, and there's nothing new about it. And there's no, I mean, I would love to see Chris Masters. It's great to see those guys, PJ Black, Justin Gabriel, Chris Modersky, or whatever his name is, Chris Masters, getting shots in TNA. That's great. They should have picked him up a while ago, especially in Masters' case. But I just don't think TNA needs something huge right now, and I don't think they are the answer to that. So time will tell, and it would absolutely mean more, both on the TNA and GFW side of things, if they needed more star power. You are absolutely correct in that vein. His second question, who has more potential, Eva Marie or Dana Brooke? This is a really, really good question. A lot of great questions this week, but this one was a real, this one really stumped me. I was at the NXT TakeOver show, obviously, like I talked about last week, and there was a lot of boos for Eva Marie. She was obviously the most hated person on that show. Dana Brooke, were they lesbians, I guess? I don't know, and they got married. Dana Brooke, not complaining. Dana Brooke got a lot, like, she got worse than Eva chants. That's what people were chanting at her. Worse than Eva. No joke. Not everybody, but some people in my section were chanting that. So, and there was a sign that had me dying when I saw it at TakeOver or something. I'm pretty sure it was at TakeOver, not in the NXT show. In the NXT show, the cheeky cameraman, they cropped it out, but they couldn't get rid of it on the TakeOver show. You can't count out those NXT faithful in Brooklyn. That was awesome. There was a sign that said, it said Dana Brooke is literally the worst, and it was a hilarious sign. It's true too. She has gotten better. I will give her that. I still cannot stand her. I think she's still a very, very, very green and a work in progress. So is Eva Marie, but here's the thing between the two. Dana Brooke is very pretty. I would not kick her out of bed. Not saying that right now. With Eva Marie, though, I feel like the reason they are pushing her, the reason they want her to get better, if she sucked in the ring, I mean, she's hot. Let's face it. That is solely the only reason why she's around. She is very, very attractive. But in her case, though, I'm not saying she's an extra stratus, but I feel like there is some potential that if she continues to improve. She's improving at a slow rate. It's like watching molasses in the ring. It's like she's working underwater. She's improving, not very quickly, but she is improving. And I feel like they will continue to push her until she gets a lot better. Now, I feel like she can be something in this company if they can sell her off of her image alone. She is very pretty. She stands out. She has the red hair, the all red everything, or whatever the bullshit hashtag I guess she uses. Dana Brooke, she's very muscular, but what makes her different from a Maurice or a Beth Phoenix is exactly what she reminded me of, Summer Rae. What makes her stand out? Other than the whole touching of yourself and whatever the hell she does when she comes down to the ring. What makes her stand out? Eva Marie, she sucks in the ring, but what makes her stand out is that she has the red hair. She's hot. Dana Brooke is hot too, but Eva Marie has this whole image on her own. She already has a brand for herself. I watch Total Divas. I know, shame on me. I watch Total Divas. But she has her own brand. She has a following, and she's getting better in the ring. She's finally putting the work, which is great to see. Dana Brooke, I'm not saying she can't go anywhere, but of the two, I feel like of those two, Eva Marie has more potential. She may be worse in the ring as of right now, but I feel like if she continues to improve, they can make a lot of money off of her because she is very attractive, and they can really make a lot of money off of her appearance because people will buy buy tickets just to see her work because she is so gorgeous. Some people have said she's not pretty. I personally think she is very, very pretty. So I think of the two, Eva Marie, they're going to strap the rocket on and just continue to go to the moon and back with her because I feel like they really have big plans in place for her going forward in the Divas division, both in NXT and the main roster down the line. Moving into the Twitter questions now from @CodyCollier37. Who would you like to see Kevin Owens feud with next and why? Like I said earlier, I would have no problem. I mean, I'm actually in favor of them continuing the feud for the next couple of weeks, months, whatever, with Cesaro. I mean, they continued it on Raw. They continued a lot of feuds on Raw. So, I mean, I don't know if that's really any indication that it's continuing in the next couple of weeks. But Owens won clean. So Cesaro has yet to get his big win over Owens. I would continue continue the feud to that point where Cesaro finally gets his win. Maybe blow it off there. Like I said earlier, maybe you do it over a title or not, but you could do a best of 5, best of 7 series with both guys. Best of 100 series, I wouldn't complain. Okay, maybe a little bit, but still, that would be amazing. Something, a best of X series, with these guys, because they work so well. I thought their match at SummerSlam was very good, and we have yet to see the best these two can produce in the ring. So I would continue to do that, but if that feud is over and you want to move Owens into a new feud, I would put him with one of the next 3 people. I already said Cesaro. Okay, and one of the next 2 people. Ryback, as I said earlier, if you want to do that match in Night of Champions, give Owens the belt. I'm a huge Ryback fan, but if they wanted to put the championship on Owens, I would have no problem with that. I would actually probably prefer it because he's already lost the U.S. title match a couple times. He lost the NXT title matches a couple times. He needs to win his next title match. Otherwise, he's going to look like a loser. And that's exactly not the way he should look because he's a great performer and he should not come across like a loser. So yeah, probably Ryback and Night of Champions or Randy Orton. I know that's like kind of my go-to answer today, but I feel like him and Orton could produce a really, really good match. They had a pretty good match on Raw a couple weeks ago. Like I said with Cesaro, it's not the best match they could have produced, and then they kind of held back a little bit, and rightfully so. They should not just blow their load in one match, and that's kind of a weird way of putting it, but that's true. They shouldn't have put out their best match yet, because what else would why would I want to see a rematch if we just saw the best? They hit their peak in their first ever encounter against each other, So, Cesaro, Randy Orton, or Ryback are all people I would love to see Kevin Owens feud with in the next couple of weeks, months, whatever. @Swagzio, his question was, I always love pronouncing that name, what is your favorite and least favorite main event at Night of Champions? For my favorite, it's a tie, but I would probably go with the first one. I mean, I'll talk about both. My favorite, if I had to pick one, it would probably be the 6-pack challenge from the 2010 Night of Champions pay-per-view. I don't know if I've talked about it. I'm pretty sure I have, actually. I definitely have in past video blogs here on the channel about how Night of Champions was the second ever pay-per-view I ever ordered in my many years as a wrestling fan. Not many. I've only been a fan for 7 years. But still, my 7 years as a wrestling fan, the first ever one I bought was Royal Rumble 2010. The second was Royal Rumble 2010. The second one was Night of Champions 2010. And I love that show so much because I bought it. I have an attachment to it. I had it on DVR. I watched it back a few times. I watched it back last year. I'll probably watch it back again. I have it on DVD now. I bought it on Amazon for like $4. I know you can watch it on the network, but it's something, to me to have it on DVD. I digress. That's another conversation for another day. But I love that show so much. I thought it was a really good match. You had Orton as the one winning the match. He was one of the challengers. You had Sheamus, John Cena, Wade Barrett, Chris Jericho, and Edge. A really good match. Not an amazing match, but a pretty good match. And again, my memories of that match alone. Again, not the best match, but my favorite. I might have to go with that. Tied for first, if not second. If I had to pick one, it would probably go second. CM Punk and John Cena from the 2012 Night of Champions pay-per-view, an amazing match. It's not my favorite Punk and Cena match. I think it's one of the more underrated ones. My favorite would obviously have to be the Money in the Bank one from 2011. I mean, that goes without saying, my favorite match of all time. You also think about their match at, on that Raw, their final match ever in WWE, on the Raw before WrestleMania 29, the February 25th edition, in 2013. An amazing match. Probably even better wrestled than their Money in the Bank ladder match. And their Money in the Bank match from 2011. It was better wrestled. Didn't have a better story, but had the better wrestling, in my opinion. That was an amazing match. I feel like their Night of Champions match kind of gets stuck underneath there. They had a pretty good, they had a couple different matches on Raw during that year as well in 2012. But that match in Night of Champions was really good. It ended in a draw, or initially it ended in John Cena winning the belt, but they restarted it. They both guys had their shoulders on the mat, therefore CM Punk retained. The finish was kind of shady. Some people didn't appreciate that. I was happy that CM Punk retained. I didn't care that he won or lost or whatever. At least he was still WWE champion, And so yeah, that was a really, really good match. And yeah, so I'd probably either of the two, I'd probably say my favorite was the Six-Pack Challenge from 2012, but the 2012 main event between Punk and Cena is a very close second. Least favorite, no debate whatsoever, Triple H and CM Punk from 2011 Night of Champions. Now, I've said here before, my favorite year in wrestling is undoubtedly 2011. And 2015 will very likely, I can almost guarantee it will beat it out by year's end. It's not official yet. We are still in August, soon to be September come tomorrow, but by year's end, 2015 will beat out very likely. 2011 is my favorite year ever in wrestling. But I know that's kind of weird to say, like this is my least favorite Night of Champions main event ever, but that match was a total train wreck clusterfuck. I hated that match when it aired. I hated watching it back. I only watched it back once, and that was last year when I reviewed it for the Wrestle Rant series last September. I hated that match. You had interference from The Miz. You had interference from R-Truth. You had interference from Kevin Nash. It was no disqualification, and Punk lost to top it all off. And there was no reason for it. There was absolutely no reason why Punk should have lost there. They killed his momentum dead. Granted, he went on to win the WWE title and go on to reign as WWE champion for the next 434 days. I get that. But that loss to Triple H was completely unnecessary. And I don't want to hear the bullshit, he was going to get his win back at WrestleMania 30. Yeah, of course. He probably very likely would have had he not left the company. But that's 2.5 years later. You cannot honestly tell me that was the plan from the get-go. I'll beat CM Punk tonight so, he can get his win back over me. That was not the way it worked. That was not the way it worked. They were very short-sighted in making that decision. And I know the stipulation was that if Triple H lost, he would be removed as COO. He got removed as COO anyway, 2 weeks later, when John Laurinaitis came back. So what was the fucking point in that, Otherwise, don't even put the stipulation on the line. I thought that was so dumb. I hated that match. It was not a horrendous match. I just personally hated it for all the interference, for Punk losing, the finisher fest. It was a clusterfuck. I hated that match so much. People will tell you they liked it. Some people will tell you it was a great match. I'm sorry, I can't sit here and tell you it was a great match. I can't lie to you. I thought it was total trash, and I hated it. So easily my least favorite main event in Night of Champions history. On a pay-per-view called Night of Champions where not one title was on the line in that match. It was total trash. The second question, who should win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Tournament match, whatever? I've only heard of a few teams, so I can't really say what team I want to see win. I heard a couple cool teams like Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. That's fucking awesome. I would love to see them win it and face the Vaudevillains. In a perfect world, I would love to see Enzo and Cass win. I don't know why they didn't win the belts on Saturday. Some people have said it's because they're not the greatest workers, which I understand, but their guys are so over. The New Age Outlaws, I cannot name one great New Age Outlaws match that I recollect, that I recall from watching old Attitude Era pay-per-views, old Raws and whatever from the time period they were around. I cannot recall one great NAO. One great New Age Outlaws match from the time that they were in their prime. Yet they were still one of the most over, if not the most over act in the tag team division at that period in time when they were champions. Enzo and Cass are no different. They can electrify an audience like no other, and they don't have to be amazing in the ring. They are good enough in the ring where I feel like they are justified in putting the belts on them, undoubtedly. But the Vaudevillains are growing on me, so I have no complaints. So either Enzo and Cass, the team of Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. I don't know the other teams. I don't read the spoilers. We're going to find out this Wednesday in NXT. So I really don't have a favorite to win the series, but as of right now, from the teams that I have seen, certainly not the Ascension or Baron Corbin and Rhino. That's going to be a snooze fest. That is Boarfest written all over it come Wednesday. I think that match is happening this week. But yeah, of the matches, of the tournaments, of the tournament matches and of the teams that I have seen announced, either Samoa Joe and Finn Balor or Enzo and Cass. I don't even know if they're in it, but they have to be. They would have to be with all the tag teams they're putting together for that tournament. So I think Breeze and Dempsey are being pulled together. That's going to be pretty funny if that's true. But anyway, yeah, either Enzo and Cass or the team of Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. So the next question comes from Daniel Cabeza 59. He's got a couple questions here. First one being, do you think that Bray Wyatt needs a title, needs to win a championship? And if he does, what title should he go for? You know, I said time and time in the past that he is a guy, he is the one guy in the roster, in my opinion, that doesn't need a championship. To me, he is like the Jake Roberts of this generation. Now, should Jake Roberts have won a title? Absolutely. Should Bray Wyatt win a championship? Absolutely. Just because he doesn't need a title doesn't mean he doesn't deserve one. I mean, Zack Ryder deserves a push. Should he get one? Probably not. Will he get one? Absolutely not. But anyway, in regards to Bray Wyatt, though, yeah, I feel like he doesn't need to win a championship because his character is all great on his own. He's finally getting the Wyatt family back together with Luke Harper, Braun Strowman, or whatever his name is. They're finally getting the family back together, which is awesome. He's so much better in that role as a leader as opposed to just being by himself. He kind of lost a little bit of that luster, in my opinion. So, yeah, I feel like he does deserve a championship at some point. And we've talked about it here on the show before. I know RJ asked a question about it like a year ago. But of any title right now, I'd probably put the Intercontinental Championship on him. The U.S. title just doesn't fit him at all. The IC title makes a little bit more sense. He's already beaten Ryback before, so you can reignite that rivalry if you want to. Not going to Night of Champions. They're currently busy with the former Shield members, Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, and perhaps a soon-to-be third member. But after that, if you want to put the IC title on him and a feud with Ryback, I'd have no issue with that whatsoever. So probably the Intercontinental Championship. And he does deserve, in my opinion, to win a title at some point in the very near future. The second question here, which match would draw more people to WrestleMania? Undertaker versus Sting or Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar? This was another amazing question when I was reading down the question for this week. That it's going to be really, really hard to answer. I think anyone will give you either one. I don't think you could really say one over the other and not be wrong. I don't really think there's one like shoe-in right answer here. I think you could say either one. If I had to pick, it really kills me to say it because I would much, much rather see Taker and Sting at WrestleMania. Not just because it's a dream match, just because it's something new, if anything else. Undertaker and Sting. I really have no desire to see Taker and Lesnar again. I could see why. I mean, they have to do the match again. After the finish we got at SummerSlam, what up t-shirt reference. But after what we got at SummerSlam, we need a third match. Personally, I would rather see it at Survivor Series or Royal Rumble. I know that's exactly what Paul Heyman said he didn't want it to happen, but it looks like I would much rather see that than at WrestleMania, in my personal opinion. Like, what is Lesnar going to do up until WrestleMania? He's going to be making more appearances than he did last year. So what is he going to do? Face Kane or something? Doesn't make any sense. So I would just blow that feud off at Survivor Series, the 25th anniversary of Undertaker's character. It makes perfect sense. But anyway, what would sell more? More people would buy. I feel like, and it's you and I are going to buy the pay-per-view regardless. So let's not include ourselves in this. I feel like there'd be more fan interest amongst the hardcore fans in a Taker-Sting match. But what would draw more people? That's your question in the end. What match would draw more people to WrestleMania? 100,000 people in AT&T Stadium next year. Taker and Lesnar. Now, I would not put that as the main event, but the only reason I say that is because, and here's a perfect example. I'll give this example very, very quickly, but two people at my work, at the movie theater that I work at, here in the area that I live in, they don't watch wrestling anymore. They are not fans of the current product. They watched likely a very long time ago. One of them made an Undertaker gesture. I didn't see it. But I thought one of the other coworkers said, "Oh, Undertaker." Maybe I thought I misheard him or whatever. And then he said to follow up with that, I'm like, okay, now I know he said Undertaker after he said this. He goes, "I heard he faced Brock Lesnar last week." So, like, if you don't watch wrestling, then how would you know about that match? If people know who Brock Lesnar is from his time in UFC, or even if not, even if you watch back in early 2000s, then you know who Brock Lesnar is. So people know who Taker and Lesnar are. That's not to say people don't know who Sting is, but I feel like a person like that who does not watch wrestling regularly, and they were about my age, so they were not, maybe they were watching during the Monday Night Wars, I don't know. People would still be like, "Oh, Sting, Taker, that's pretty cool." I feel like if you take a massive survey, people are going to know who Lesnar is over Sting. and they're therefore going to buy Taker and Sting, or rather Taker and Lesnar over Taker and Sting. Now, it's a hardcore dream match from an IWC perspective. I get that, but what would sell more tickets? I mean, I hate to say Taker and Lesnar because that's probably what they're going to do, and their rationale for going for it, but not by much, but Taker and Lesnar. Because, like I said, I feel like Lesnar is more well-known than Sting, because if you weren't, there's a lot more WWF fans out there than WCW, and even if you were a WWF fan, I'm sure you know who Sting is, but people today, if I said Sting, I'm like, oh, the musical artist, he's going to be at WrestleMania this year, I feel like more people know who Lesnar is based off his time in UFC, more so than anything else. So I'd probably go with Taker and Lesnar in that scenario, despite how much it pains me to say that. His next question, an awesome question though, so props to Daniel for that one. His third question, how would you build up a Daniel Bryan return? Imagine that he's coming back for the Royal Rumble. Win it! That's all I can really say. If you're gonna have him come back to the Royal Rumble, he can't not be in it, and he can't not be in it and not win it. That makes no sense. You can't have him return in the Rumble and not win it. You can have the same exact repeat of what happened the last 2 years. So, you said imagine that he's coming back for the Royal Rumble. He wins. He wins at either number 30 or 29 or whatever. He starts from number 1 and he wins it all. I have no idea. But he wins. He can't come back in the Rumble and lose. Again, it's going to fuck over the winner, and it's not very well deserved, despite whether it's Roman Reigns or Zack Ryder, it doesn't matter. Yoshitatsu makes an appearance and wins the Rumble. They're going to get booed out of the building if Bryan returns in the Rumble and doesn't win. Again. So have Bryan return the next night on the Raw. At least the reaction would be a little less angry if it's someone that the people don't like. So if he's in the Rumble, if he returns in the Rumble, win it. Have him win it. If he doesn't win it, keep him out of the Rumble. Don't have him return until after the Rumble, in my opinion. His second question here, why do you think that the Divas Revolution is falling apart? Or his fourth question rather here. Why do you think the Divas Revolution is falling apart? Do we blame the Bellas for it? So I can go on a huge rant about this. I talked about it on Wrestle Radio. There's a clip here on the channel of it from last Wednesday. I'm not going to go in depth with it. I already kind of ranted about it here on the show, or here on, hashtag SGSM. I've ranted about it on Wrestle Radio. Like I said, up from last week. But to keep it short and sweet, what is the Divas Revolution about? Just because you call it a revolution does not make it a revolution. Now, the problem with the Revolution, in my opinion, is that it doesn't have any meaning. We get the same fucking 3-on-3 tag team matches, 3-on-3-on-3. Cool stuff. The matches aren't bad, but the reason why people are shitting on these matches, last week being a prime example, is because the matches mean nothing. No one has shown any incentive, shown any desire towards being the Divas Championship, towards being Divas Champion, which is bullshit considering Night of Champions is right around the corner, as well as Nikki Bella breaking the record of AJ Lee. Now, I understand they're holding a Beat the Clock challenge for the women tonight on Raw, which is awesome. That's great. I'm looking forward to it. But prior to that, they really should have been having, there should have been a lot more talk over the women wanting that Divas Championship a lot earlier. They've been on the main roster for a month and a half. Why didn't Charlotte or Becky or Sasha say they wanted that title? Charlotte and Sasha have both beaten Nikki Bella. They have both made her tap out. Both of them have made her tap out on 2 separate occasions in the last month. Where is their title shot? They have to go through Beat the Clock challenge? What? That makes no sense, So, whatever, but anyway, yeah, so that's the reason why the Divas Revolution, it's not really falling apart because it never really got started, They have to show some sort of desire towards being Divas Champion. If you don't want to be champion, then what's the point? We are women, we are strong. That's awesome. I commend that. I think it's great they have the NXT ladies on Raw. They're getting more time. That's awesome. But where is the story in a fucking 3-on-3 tag team match that we see every single week and you're trading wins? It makes no sense. We don't have to blame the Bellas. I don't like the Bellas, but we're not going to blame them for it. But I will say them. Speaking of the Bellas, them as well as Paige blaming the crowd for the reaction last week. Don't blame the crowd, honey. It's creative. Turn around and look at who's writing your fucking segments. That Miz TV segment was awful. Was absolutely atrocious. That was some of the worst TV I've seen in a long time in WWE in 2015. That was freaking atrocious. So don't blame the crowd. The crowd shit all over it. It's not their fault. Sure, they're a rowdy crowd. The "We Are Awesome" chant is cringeworthy, and then that's stupid. But every other chant from that segment or match or whatever was well deserved. It's not towards the women. It's not to disrespect the women. It's because creative doesn't know how to book a revolution, as they're calling it. So that's what they need to improve upon going forward if they want to make this mean anything at all. And finally from Daniel, why is Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels your favorite WrestleMania match of all time? because it's freaking great. Have you seen the match? I mean, there's really shouldn't be any question. I've only been a wrestling fan since WrestleMania. I mean, that was technically my first WrestleMania. I started watching in April of 2008, right after WrestleMania 24. I have a lot of favorite WrestleMania matches, but that would probably be my favorite because it's one of the greatest matches not only in WrestleMania history, but of all time. So obviously, it's going to be my favorite WrestleMania match of all time. That really should come as no surprise to many people. At E13A, his question was, and I always love these questions, always be sure to send these in. I love answering them. Push, repackage, release. And this one was great. It's very easy, but I thought it was great. Big Show, Mark Henry, and Kane. Fire them all. Fire every single one of them, and I won't complain. But in all seriousness, if I had to push one, repackage one, and release one, I would have to push Mark Henry. I've talked about this here before on the show. I've talked about it in a Bleacher Report article a couple weeks ago. I feel like he can be a valuable asset to the company if they booked him properly and not to look like a jobber every single goddamn week. So I would push Mark Henry, repackage Kane. I would not push Kane in the current character that he's in. I would repackage him as the Masked Demon or whatever. The corporate bullshit is not working out. It's not good. So turn him back into the Master Monster. At least it's a little bit better. So repackage him. And obviously, release Big Show. Again, a very easy push, repackage, release, but none of those should come as any surprise. So, release Big Show is, retire the Big Show. Hashtag fire Big Show, hashtag retire Big Show, hashtag Big Show for champ. Did I just say that? No, just kidding. But yeah, that should really come as no surprise to anyone who knows me well. This was also an amazing question from at E13A. What was the better event, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn or Money in the Bank 2011? I don't even want to answer this, it's so hard, but he said, as someone who attended both, I think NXT surpassed Money in the Bank. Now, I was not in the crowd for Money in the Bank. I did watch it live, and as also someone who was at NXT TakeOver, it was, like I said last week, on WrestleRant Radio and the video blog, NXT TakeOver was the single greatest wrestling show I've ever been to. Now, I never went to Money in the Bank, but I did go to Raw last year, that amazing Raw in Hartford. I was at SummerSlam. NXT TakeOver easily takes the cake as the greatest wrestling show I've ever attended. Now, that being said, what Money in the Bank had that NXT TakeOver didn't was, NXT TakeOver undoubtedly has a buzz about it, but the build to the show is not stellar at all. Like, the build to NXT TakeOver really started heating up in the final 2 weeks. It's been okay. It's not been terrible, but the card didn't really start to shape up until like 2 or 3 weeks before the show. The Money in the Bank pay-per-view had a lot of buzz from the moment that Punk said, I'm leaving that pay-per-view as WWE Champion. That was one of the most anticipated events in history. So while NXT TakeOver, while I see what you're saying, and while that show is, more well-rounded, the greatest women's match of all time in WWE history, I think that goes pretty much without saying in my personal opinion. A great ladder match, 2 awesome title changes, 2 awesome debuts from Jushin Thunder Liger and Apollo Crews. It might have been the better all-around show, but you also had 2 very, very, very good Money in the Bank ladder matches at Money in the Bank 2011. The aftermath wasn't even that good. It wasn't even that great. It was good. SummerSlam was awesome, but the fall was shit. And the whole Nash storyline and that whole garbage, and Punk coming back 8 days later, which I didn't mind at the time, but I could see why people took an exception to that at that period in time, and still to this day. But anyway, though, I'd still go with Money in the Bank 2011. Now, my opinion of that may sway. Ask me again in a year or so. I think that might be the true question. After it kind of settles in, if you asked me right after Money in the Bank what my favorite pay-per-view was, I might have said that one, but it might have taken some time for me to realize, wow, that really was the greatest pay-per-view in the last 10 years, in my opinion, or one of the greatest pay-per-views in the last 10 years. So right now, if you ask me what my favorite wrestling show of all time still is to this day, just for Cena and Punk and that being my favorite match of all time, probably Money in the Bank 2011, just because of the build itself and the aftermath kind of being good, not so being good. Well, we have to wait to, we have to take our time with NXT TakeOver. The aftermath is still playing out as I speak. We're only like a month removed, or a week removed rather, from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. So right now, Money in the Bank 2011, but if you ask me a year from now, my opinion may change. For right now, I'm just going to go with Money in the Bank just because of, NXT, like I said, might have had the better card all around. But the buzz going into that show is unlike anything I've ever seen, and it delivered, moreover, than anything else. So I'd probably go with Money in the Bank 2011 for right now. At Scarlet1 via Twitter, their question was, from your experience, is the Attitude Era an over-intellectualized, glorified trailer trash time period, or does the era still hold up and is worthy of the legacy that WWE and Smarks give it? So a very popular question that I think a lot of people have had, not just for me, but just I've seen it, posed in the past. I've seen this question asked before on various wrestling forums and stuff like that. Was the Attitude Era as great as a lot of people, make it out to be, or was it complete trailer trash? So I'll kind of meet you in the middle here. I'm not going to say, was the greatest era of all time? It's very arguable, and I think you would not be wrong if you said it was. It's not my favorite era of all time. My favorite era was Ruthless Aggression from 02 to 05. Wasn't a fan during that period in time, but I've seen enough to say that it was my favorite period in WWE from 02 to 05. Now, was it trailer trash? Was everything great about it? Absolutely not. The wrestling roster sucked. John and I watched the Raw. It's different because we were barely even born. We were still shitting in diapers when the Attitude Era was happening. I'm 20 years old, so I was just barely born when the Attitude Era was born, so to speak. No pun intended. Around that period in time in the late 80s, I couldn't have watched even if I wanted to. Now that said, absolutely, it's one of the greatest eras of all time. It shows for it business-wise. It was the hottest time period that people were into wrestling. It was the coolest time. I don't want to go back to that time. We need to improve and move forward. But I feel like, was the wrestling great? Absolutely not. The wrestling was shit. All the matches we watched in that one Attitude Era Raw were garbage. But some of the segments were really good. People were just so over. It was such a hot product. Anything could happen. It was so exciting with the Monday Night Wars. They had competition. So obviously it's an amazing era. I don't know if it's the greatest of all time or if it's, it's perfect. A lot of people romanticize about it. Oh, the Attitude Era was so great. It was so perfect. And not to make fun of people, but I'm just saying some people do say that. And no, it wasn't all perfect. You look at the wrestling roster today is so much better than it was 15, 20 years ago. That's not to say the stories are better. Everyone in the roster, even though the wrestling sucked, everyone in the roster at least had a story back in 1998. The same thing can't be said today, but I feel like we have a much better roster all around than we did in 1998 and 1999 during the entire Attitude Era. So no, I wouldn't call it a glorified trailer trash time period at all. I think it was amazing, but it's certainly not as perfect as a lot of people kind of paint it out to be. I think some people have kind of come to their senses and say, hey, it wasn't that amazing. It was absolutely one of the best times to be a wrestling fan, but was it the be-all, end-all? Was it perfect? Is wrestling dead without the Attitude Era? Absolutely not, because the wrestling was complete shit. As a wrestling purist myself, I would have hated being a fan during that period of time. Maybe I would not be the same fan I am today. I guess we'll never really know. But when I go back and watch those pay-per-views or Raws, I'm not satisfied because the wrestling was shit. So it was not the trailer trash, as you said, but it was still an amazing era, but not nearly as perfect as as a lot of the smarks. I think WWE knows that it wasn't that perfect. It wasn't perfect, but some people do. Some smarks do, as you said, and that is not all that true. Great time period, but not nearly perfect as some people paint it out to be. At Big Bird 432, do you think that 2012 in wrestling is an underrated year? Absolutely. I'm going to write an article about it. It's great that you mentioned this. I'm going to be writing an article about it. I've been planning to write about it for a while now, either for What Culture or Bleacher Report or whatever. Just be on the lookout for it. 10 reasons why 2012 was a very underrated year in wrestling. You had CM Punk on top for the entire year. You had great matches, the rise of the Shield. NXT had just gotten kind of really underway, kind of been rejuvenated. You still had, not really, the brand split was pretty much dead at that period in time, but you had some really good matches. Ryback's rise to popularity in the latter half of that year. Like I said, CM Punk is WWE Champion. WrestleMania 28, Cena and Rock alone. That match was great. That whole WrestleMania was awesome. A really good summer. Raw 1000, amazing show that summer. A really good fall season. So the wrestling was awesome. I think 2012 had some really good matches. So yeah, I would say 2012 is an underrated year in wrestling. 2011 is still my favorite up until this year, with the exception of 2015. 2013 was kind of had its ups and downs, same with 2014. 2012 was more consistently good than anything else. I don't know if it was amazing. It certainly wasn't amazing, but it was more of a consistently good year than the subsequent years were. 2012, I think, has been better than 2012, but 2015 has been better than 2012, but 2012, whatever. But yeah, I think it is an underrated year. I think a lot of people don't give it the credit it deserves, because I think it really was a very well-rounded year from a wrestling aspect and story aspect as well. So final two questions here. First from Digga the Boss. I know it's Sabotage spelled backwards. I don't really know how you pronounce it, but his question was, assuming the Undertaker and Lesnar trilogy ends at WrestleMania, who would be the best opponent for Sting at WrestleMania 32? And again, another amazing question, really hard to answer. So I got 3 names here. The Rock, who I assume will either be busy with Brock Lesnar, or if not Lesnar, then Triple H, so he's kind of off the table. Sting's probably a last-ditch effort. And I really want to see that anyway. I mean, it would be a cool effort. I mean, it would be a really cool match to do Rock and Sting for the first time ever, but I'm sure the match wouldn't really be that good. I feel like Undertaker and Sting could tell a better story. Rock and Sting, the match in ring probably wouldn't be that good. And where was the story to be told? You know, WWE versus WCW, we kind of saw that last year with Triple H, so I don't really see the big difference. But I mean, I wouldn't complain. It'd be a decent match, just something new. Cena and Sting, wouldn't mind that. That'd be something new. But again, I feel like Cena would win. Sting, they're not gonna have Sting beat Cena on the grandest stage in the mall, so probably not. If there's anyone that he could beat and he needs wins right now, it would probably be Randy Orton. Like I said before, he could take a loss. This is like the Randy Orton show today. He's like my go-to answer for everything. But Orton and Sting, they had that brief, very, very brief altercation or confrontation, whatever you want to call it, on that mid-March episode of Raw earlier this year when he came to the aid of Orton to fend off the Authority, and that was really cool. They haven't really touched upon it since then, but the Viper and the Scorpion, dude, I'll buy it. If Orton goes back to being the Legend Killer for that one feud, even if he's a heel or a babyface, you could do a babyface and babyface match. I don't see the problem with it. Yeah, so Orton would probably be my pick. Cena's probably going to be busy next year, and if he's going to win, then no thanks. Sting, I feel like, has to win next year regardless, because he lost against Triple H for whatever reason. He has to win next year. Cena wouldn't be a good opponent. Rock would probably win. He'll be busy with Triple H anyway. So Orton would be my pick. If it's not Undertaker, then Orton would be my pick for Sting against Sting at WrestleMania 32. Final question here from @Unsolved22. Their question was, how do you feel about Owens winning Money in the Bank next year? A lot of people were predicting or thinking that it would happen this year, and I thought that would be a great idea. But of course, he was put in the feud with John Cena instead, which was fine. We got a lot of great matches out of that feud, but I feel like Owens would have been a lot better of a pick than Sheamus for Mr. Money in the Bank. Now, I'm not shitting on Sheamus as many other people are. I feel like he's got a badass entrance. He's so much better as a heel than as a babyface. Doesn't make him a great character, but at least he's a lot more tolerable than he was a year ago, in my opinion. Still don't want to see him as WWE Champion at this period in time, but Owens would have made a lot more sense. And also, if you give the briefcase to Owens next year, imagine the troll jobs that you could do with Owens. Like, oh, he's going to cash in, he's going to do it for the fans, he's having them go crazy. Oh, I'm not going to do it tonight. Sorry. You know, like, Owens would be perfect for that role, in my opinion. So, I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's nothing that no one has said before. Like, a lot of people were hoping it would happen this year, but he was stuck in the Cena feud, so unfortunately it didn't happen. But yeah, I feel like that'd be awesome if Owens won Money in the Bank next year and went on to cash in to become world champion. Hopefully he's world champion before then. I'm not banking on it, considering the kind of the D push they've given him in recent weeks. But yeah, I feel like that'd be awesome. Owens would be a perfect person to be holding that opportunistic briefcase. So that's going to be closing out today's edition of #AskGSM. As always, guys, if you want to send in a question, be sure to tweet me on Twitter @WrestleRant with the hashtag #AskGSM. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights or on the wall itself. And last but not least, be sure to leave a comment on this very video. I'll be sure to include it in next week's episode. So guys, with all that being said, take a very good look. This will not be the final video I film from my room here at home, but it will be the final video I film here for a while. I'm going back to school today. I'm filming this on Sunday, of course, but it will be going up on Monday, hopefully during the noon time when I'm unpacking and shit. But yeah, so yeah, this will be the final time I will be in this setting. So hopefully you guys take it all in. I'll be in my new dorm starting next week, so a new fresh environment for #AskGSM starting next Monday. Be sure to send in those questions. Like I said, the video should be up every Monday starting next Monday, starting in September, around 1, 2, 3 o'clock, hopefully. So be on the lookout for that. Again, guys, thank you for an amazing summer. It's been a lot of fun doing this show. Not nearly the end. We're closing in 100 episodes. I'm so looking forward to that. Been doing the #AskGSM for over 2 years now. It's amazing. All thanks to you guys and your awesome questions and your great support. So be sure to not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share. That was the last thing I forgot to say there. So be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for the channel. I really do appreciate it. You guys are great. So enjoy Raw tonight with Sting on it. Hopefully it's not canceled due to the hurricane wherever the show is taking place tonight. Oh, in Tampa, Florida. That's where it's happening. Hopefully the show is not delayed or canceled or whatever. And as you're watching this, I'm probably unpacking in my new dorm, and I'll be posting pictures all over social media. for you guys. And kind of a new sneak peek at the new setup for hashtag AskUSim starting next week. So enough of my rambling, guys. That's almost an hour-long video. Have a great rest of your Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham Giusa Matthews, and I'll catch you guys down the road.